Hello, my lovey. We are here with myself, Melissa Trumbull, and Leilani Wells, who is rocking the world with all of her Get Seen social media empire. It's rock and rolling so good. And we were talking about how when the world is dumpster firing, let's make that a verb, shall we? How Leilani Wells, who
Sorry, I did that. That was my bad background noise.
oh,
I had to look. I'm like, is it on my socials too?
because
Sound
she's a
down, Lonnie.
social
Sound
media baby.
down.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are all things social media. So Leilani, my people know what I'm always on about, breath work, journaling, move your body, make sure you're hydrated, and those sorts of things. So what are some tools that you use when things get, when the shiitake gets sparkly and is just very real?
Yeah. Are we jumping right in? Or is that what we're doing?
Fire!
Okay. Okay.
I know what I told you. I was going to introduce.
Yeah.
Here is welcome to Neurodivergence. You're welcome. So one thing that I've discovered, and this is amazeballs, mushrooms. Okay, they put these filaments through the ground when they're dormant, and so like a whole forest floor will be covered with underneath. Okay, it's not covered, it's underneath. And when the circumstances are right, from moisture, from, season, whatever, then the mushrooms pop up throughout whatever area that they have spread where the conditions are good. And I liken that to when we hear something and then suddenly, I don't know, we hear it again, and oh, wait a minute, now this is just like front of mind. I must do the thing, or now I know how to, make this in my life. And it's hilarious because I used to call it planting seeds, but now I think each time we hear something, it's just like one of those filaments under the forest floor. And so then when the conditions are right, then the mushroom can grow and it can be part of our lives. And I think that's very important if you're talking about reprogramming your subconscious, reframing your mindset, being more emotionally aware, all of the things that help us live more joyfully. It's a constant thing. And so you put the threads out with your affirmations, with your journaling, with your breath work, with, the self-care of moving your body and being nourished and hydrated. And all of those come together to support you. And I love that analogy. And I love the idea that you have all of these wonderful, beautiful things working for you. So now, Leilani, will you please share, like, what are some of your hacks or tips or, things that work for you?
Yeah. Okay. So I have to say something, if it's okay, about what you just shared, because
Yes.
that was just huge. And I loved our conversation about that earlier too. It's huge because when we finally understand something, like that trail of all the way getting there, and then that last point that someone makes to us where we finally get it, or something appears to us, some like answer appears to us, however it comes. A lot of times we've in the past only seen that one spark that got us there at the end, at the finish line. And we're not acknowledging all those other things along the trail. So today I noticed that whole trail leading up to something that sparked for me today. I was watching a live and I was just like, oh my gosh, I so needed this today. I was watching a live, and then I was like, okay, mark down that this spark was from this person, and then mark in my mind, oh wait, this other person shared something that was part of that spark. This other person shared it. This other person shared it. This other thing showed it to me, right? And so the reason why I find that so important, what you're talking about right now, is because if we make it to a space in our lives where we can recognize the trail, then we can understand where we're going right with what we surround ourselves with and who we surround ourselves with. We're not just recognizing that last point where it's like light bulb. No, a light bulb doesn't just go off. You have to put the cord in the wall. Before you put the cord in the wall, you have to pay your electric bill. Before you pay your electric bill, you have to find out who you pay, what company. There's more involved than just the flip of the switch. So when that flip of the switch happens, it's like, what did we take to get all the way there? And let's stop and understand all those things so we can recreate, so we can say this works, this poured into that, but this did not, this did this, you know what I mean? So I was really excited about that. Really
I
excited
love,
about
and I would like to add to your light bulb situation. Think about the infrastructure that it takes to get electricity to the building you're in, to your actual outlet, from
yeah.
the power plant. Is it a dam? Is it coal? Is it solar? Is it a wind farm? Like, there's a lot involved to get that light to turn on in this seemingly,
Hmm.
instantaneous spark. it's that's years and years. I mean, look at the
Yeah.
groundworks alone just to put in an electricity center. Like, it's ridiculously a long process, and it's got to be safe.
Yeah.
Look at all the safety stuff, all of the OSHA inspectors. I'm making that up. I'm sure there's OSHA inspectors.
Oh
I'm not a
my
constructor.
goodness. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, I wonder, like, so if you're one of those people that is always hearing, "Oh my goodness, I told you this 1,000 times." Like, if someone's telling you that, then maybe you should acknowledge that person or listen to that person. You know what I mean? But anyway, back to your question, which is awesome, 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 awesome topic and live to discuss, because a lot of, like, since like the past few years, there have been a lot of dumpster fires happening, like literally, happening to a lot of us, a lot of people in our lives. And um, I do get that. Like, how are you, just keeping going and smiling? And how do you just like go, go, go? Like, you never stop. Someone told me the other day, like, you never stop. And I was like, I think about it, and there have been times where I've had to use actual techniques because it has been like so crazy. Like, it came down to like breathing. A lot of things was like breathing, 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 breathing. When it gets that bad,
Mhm.
then you have to go moment by moment, focus on breath. And breath, nature, walking, like the only things that can ever help me ever, 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 if it's like bad, 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 is breathing, walking, and breathing, walking,
You
and
mentioned nature.
also yeah, thank you. Breathing, walking, nature. But there's also I have this thing that I did when I was very, very, very I had a very extreme situation happen where it was just like I felt incapacitated, like with the amount of sadness, of fear, of depression, of all the things,
Mhm.
and literally what I did. And I don't know if this is a method, I don't know if I made it up, I don't know where it came from, but one morning I just like, I can't get out of bed, like, what am I going to do? And I literally like just hugged myself and told myself, I love you, I love you, I love you, and just like imagined pouring that love and it circulating into my body, like over and over and over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And I would, just in order to get out of bed, I would do that for 10 minutes straight, sometimes longer, because it was like a really horrible situation that had happened
Mhm.
in my life. And so after I finally got myself through the process doing that every morning, it would carry me through the day when I did that in the morning. And then I got to understanding, when I got out of the worst of it all, I started realizing and understanding this new level of self-love, which was just like an added bonus from
Mhm.
that, and then I was doing things to seek out more of that, more of being a person who lives in self-love, right? And I
Oh,
think,
I
yeah.
love this. I love this so much. And just to,
Oh, look,
give.
love yourself. I did not plan to talk about this, but
Oh, that's awesome. I want to point
yeah,
out the science behind what you were doing instinctively.
please.
Just gorgeous. So when we first wake up and when we're falling asleep, our brain waves are in the theta state, and that's that drowsy feeling, of like whether it's creeping dread, like you were talking about, or sadness, or something that feels incapacitating, debilitating. Then that's the mind state that is highly suggestible, so that we can talk to ourselves, tell us that we are loved, tell ourselves that we are safe. And you also added Marcus Aurelius, OG Meditations. He is the first recorded person to write about himself as you. And that
Oh,
gives you
wow.
distance from all of the things that are overwhelming. And,
Mm,
it allows you the space to see, like, and talk to yourself like, hey, Melissa, incredibly sad. You are so loved. I love you. I care for you. I keep you secure and safe, and you're okay. Additionally, I would add a component that is if you've experienced difficult times as a child, sometimes we need to reparent the child within and remind that child that you've got them. You've made it. You survived it.
Yeah.
So just to push a little further on that, but yes, absolutely. And of course, affirmations, or you can call them mantras, but saying the things over and over again and letting your brain, like subconsciousness, it's like where the little kids' feet scuff, you're just repetitive, 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 and you're digging deeper
Yeah.
and deeper and deeper. And so you are like aces right on.
Well, that's crazy. I felt like when I started, I felt like I was saving my life. Like I was like, and then it was a gradual thing. It was like, okay, I made this decision. That's interesting to hear, like, all of what that is. Thanks for sharing that. That's so cool. Tell everybody, for my audience, like, what you do, please. So,
Oh,
like,
sure.
all about Mel, please.
All right. So I'm a speaker. I am a best-selling author. I am a coach. I have group programs as well as individual, as well as what I call the mailbox programs, where the videos are accessible to you, the resources are acceptable. Accessible and I speak so well, don't I? And also I have my
You
podcast,
do.
CFG Living Podcast, and that is that's my baby. So please come check it out. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, all the good things.
So I don't just like to share this. I hope it doesn't get on your nerves, but I like to share this for your personality because you're so badass.
Yeah.
Can we tell them about your waiting clip, please, 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 for
Yes,
those Gen
absolutely.
X and beyond, like those people who were there for it, please.
Absolutely. And I am getting back into acting, which makes it even more fun. I was in the movie Waiting that starred Ryan Reynolds. It was back in the day, set in one of those terrible chain restaurants. They called it Shenanigans. It was Bennigan's. And I was bitchy lady. That was my actual credit. And I did it very, very well.
Very well. Very, very well. I cannot watch that full scene over and over again. I get so grossed out by what they did to your character. I'm like, that's just
And it was so funny. They were doing really horrible things to my food in the kitchen, is what that's about. And so to make the body hair from the crotchecular area look like show up as best as it could on camera, they were using shaved wire. And so like the assistant
Wow.
director would get in my face. He's like, "Do not put this in your mouth." I got it. Like I'm like, it looks like I ate it, but I was just like, no, no, thank you. I don't want wire and whatever other rocks you've got. Like they were just trying to make it show
Yeah.
up on the camera. It was
Yeah.
hilarious.
That's really, I love those background stories about stuff like that. That's cool. So another thing that I do, I'll go back to what you were asking about, like the things. So we're talking about with Mel and I are having a discussion about, like, what do you do when the world feels like a dumpster fire? How do you bring that joy back? And so we spoke about pouring self-love into yourself. We spoke about walking, nature. We spoke about, let's see, walking, nature, breathing. So what I mean by breathing, I mean focusing on your breath and deep breathing. Breath work was shared to me by an emotional intelligence coach, Sid Scott. He shared a book with me recently on breath work, and I got into that more. So it's cool to understand, like, some things that you do, and then you get like the actual science behind it, or a book behind it, or information behind it. And then you delve deeper into it and do it more. And it's almost like that confirmation, And it also goes back to what you and I were talking about earlier, Mel, looking at the breadcrumbs, they come from not just people, but just life. You see these
100%.
things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I do think that the breadcrumbs, whether you're using breadcrumbs as an analogy, seed planting, I like the mushroom analogy, all of these things can remind us that when we feel adrift or alone or abandoned, or like, I'm just not going to be able to get through this, take a moment and understand what resources do you have? Is it, breath work? Is it, taking meticulous care of your body?
Mm.
Making sure that you're getting water, making sure that you're walking, making sure that you're spending time outdoors.
Mm.
What if you could, what if you had the energy to, what would you do? And see
Mhm.
if you can just incorporate a sliver of that into this day. And then if you can the next day, and build that muscle and recognize that even when you feel like you are with no resources, that is simply untrue because you've got everything that everyone's ever told you, everything you've ever watched, read, or heard. There's all of those tools are there. And if you don't have them, hi, internet,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, go to zfgliving.com. Go watch me on
Mhm.
social. I'm constantly trying to share things. My mission is to increase joy measurably in the world. And so that is what I do. That's what all of my social is about. That's what my podcast is about. Um, and I'm not the only one. There's a gazillion
Mhm.
podcasts. There's a ton of thought influencers who are trying to promote, philosophies that bring joy to us.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so understand that those are some resources too. And message any of us. Like, I'm here. I want to
Mhm.
help,
Mhm. And you're
whether you
awesome.
plan or
You're
not.
absolutely awesome.
Aw, thanks.
I mean that from like awesome,
That's so
awesome.
good.
I thought of another thing too, Mel, on like a side note or a different angle, I should say, is one of the things that I look at when I'm feeling like the world's a dumpster fire is that the first go to sometimes is to look outside of ourselves because that'll make us feel better in the moment to maybe talk to a friend and talk things through. And then sometimes you can also look at it and say, am I escaping? Is this escapism because I have to actually go through this? I have to actually feel this. So I think it's important for me personally to differentiate, to learn to understand myself, to learn when am I looking to escape instead of feeling this
Mhm.
discomfort, this pain, this sorrow, this reality of what is actually happening. And, don't gaslight yourself,
Sure.
and literally say things get to be difficult sometimes. And then if you can understand that, then you can understand what times get to be that way where you're actually working through it so you can have consistent happiness and joy and actually not be like masking something and letting it simmer and turn and fester and turn into something. Or like, is it something that you actually do get to like run from and get a break because it's just way too much and you need to talk it out with someone and you need to actually feel that community of
Mhm.
sharing in your sorrow and not being alone, right? And so I think there's like that whole like dance that we get to do with that too.
100%, especially with grief,
Mm,
and we grieve different things. It doesn't have to be a death. It can be the ending of
yeah.
something, even if you're excited about what you're beginning. And that can be very confusing. It's a complicated grief. And like why I should be really excited. I'm moving into a brand new house that is wonderful and perfect for me and my family. And Well, you're still leaving the memories from the old house. So just being aware of
Hmm.
those kinds of emotions, being aware, acknowledging them. And can you
Yeah.
release them? If you can, release them. If you cannot, how can you transmute them? How can you express them? Are you going to have a hard workout? Are you going to scream into a pillow? Like, don't just tamp it down. Welcome to your ulcer, or whatever is going to happen. But, there are times when we do need to experience the emotion. And there's also times when we get to let it go so that we're not ruminating.
Beautifully said. Beautiful share.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me, Leilani. This has just been
Thank
such a
you.
wealth of wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. I love hanging out with you. You know that.
Yeah. Cheers, my lovey. I am letting you go. Let's end it.